Hello, everybody. We're just going to wait 30 seconds for any people that might be still jumping on. But I hope we're all having a nice week so far. Happy Tuesday. It's not my favorite day of the week, actually. It's probably my worst. So it's interesting that I got asked to do a webinar on this day, but there you go. Yeah, we'll wait a few seconds and then we'll jump straight into it. By the way, while we are going through this webinar, I hope my dog isn't barking in the background because he has been doing. So if he does, apologies. He's a little Jack Russell Fox Terrier, so they tend to bark quite a bit. I reckon we go for it, Bill. Um, but today, guys, we're going to be covering some basics of Bullhorn, um, in particular automation and data health. Um, Automation's been around a couple of years now for Bullhorn, and I think quite a few of my personal clients are utilizing it. But we're going to go through some tips and tricks as to how to improve your data health. Next slide, please, Bill. Before we do that though, I'm going to talk about Engage because we have that coming up next Thursday. And it's at the Ramwick Racecourse. We do this every year. It gets bigger and bigger every year. This year we have 500 tickets on offer and more. There's still tickets to be sold. So if you are interested in attending, then please do. But it's the biggest recruitment event of the year in Sydney. We have, shall I read through the bullet points? Seems a bit insightful and relevant content. No, what we do is we go through all sorts of different aspects within recruitment. This year, Bullhorn has got a huge focus on AI, and so that's going to be a big point of talking points. But you can also connect with your peers within the industry. You know, it's not just Bullhorn customers. People think every year this is just Bullhorn customers. It's not. There's people from all sorts of walks of life within recruitment. We have all sorts of speakers, and we have a guest speaker at the end. This year it's Kaf Koshul. So yeah, she'll have some interesting insights, and at the end of that, we also go for drinks too. So that's probably my favorite part of it. But yeah, there's free drinks and snacks and things like that at the end. So definitely looking to engage. You can use that QR code there to have a look into it a bit more. Next slide, please, Bill. But yeah, so today some webinar housekeeping, some important things to note. The session will be recorded. You can go back and look over this. Everyone's going to be on mute, but you can also ask questions at any point, and we'll be addressing the questions at the end. So feel free to put that into the Q&A, and me and Bill will address them at the end too. Go for it, Bill. As an introduction, though, I'm Ross Cooper. I'm an account executive. I've been at Bullhorn for nearly 6 years now. I think 6 years, it'll be in June. Before that, I was in recruitment myself, so I've used all sorts of different softwares. I understand some of the pain points that you guys definitely have in terms of, you know, making notes and things like that within the system, being as quick as we can, making ourselves more productive. And then now I deal with businesses that have got 1 to 10 users predominantly within the APAC space. So any new businesses coming, or businesses, should I say, coming across from different softwares, I'm kind of your man for that. I also deal with existing clients that might want to add products. For example, if any of you guys have got Bullhorn but you don't have automation, then I would be your man for that. And then Bill, I'll let you talk about yourself, my friend.
Yeah, so I'm Bill Cogle, as you can see with the wonderful photo there. I've been a part of Bullhorn in the support side for over 5 years now. And this year I've stepped into a new role, or a support engagement manager role, where mainly I'm working with the larger enterprise level clients, just helping them with good support and practices. All right.
Nice. Guys, we're going to turn our cameras off now, which is maybe a bit rude, depending on how you feel, but that's what we're going to do. And then on to the next slide, please, Bill. But today, just from an agenda point of view, we're going to talk about why it's important to maintain good data hygiene. So when I was in recruitment, this is a true story. The reason I took my first job, I had 2 job offers. The reason I took my first one was I was told we have 40,000 candidates in the database. You'll always be able to find a candidate. And then in reality, when I started doing searches, those candidates weren't up to date. So, you know, if I was looking for a desktop engineer, the guy might now be a project manager, for example. So what we're going to look at today is how automation, and in particular Bullhorn automation, can help to clean your database, including the best ways of removing duplicate records, using advanced searches to look for the errors within those searches, post-placement tips to maintain data hygiene, and then more automation tips to help keep your data up to date. Next slide, please, Bill. But why it's important to maintain good data hygiene, all those things that I just said before. One of the first things I did on a Monday morning when I came in was go to Seek Talent Search, for example, to see who updated the resume the latest, or I'd go to LinkedIn and find out who was looking for jobs. The reality is you're all doing the same thing. So with Bullhorn automation, you want your database to be the main point of contact. That's your USP. So the data that you have, if you have all these thousands of candidates in the system and they're not up to date, then that's what starts making you spend more money posting jobs, you know, acquiring CVs from Seek Talent Search, spending money on LinkedIn Recruiter. And I'm not saying all these things are bad tools, but really your USP should be your database. And that's what we try to utilize Bullhorn automation for. So good data health means you have accurate and error-free searches. So when the consultants are going in and doing searches, they've got confidence in the database that that information is up to date and correct. Everything's correctly formatted. Everything's complete. Why is it important? Because it makes you find the right information quickly. The consultants aren't going out and spending time in these other places when the database is the most important thing. So you can trust and leverage the single source of truth, which would and should hopefully be Bullhorn. And you can utilize more automations to streamline your workflows while you're doing all this. So other things beyond data health, but that's what we're focusing on today. Next slide, please, Bill. How can we clean the database? Regularly audit it. Duplicate records we get rid of. We capture missing data and we establish data governance. So what these mean is regularly auditing the database. With automation, you can have two different types. One is an always running automation and one is a one-time automation. An always running automation would be the data health one, right? You always want that running so that if people are falling into these brackets of what you consider to be unhealthy, then they're always getting reached out to. Every 3 months, if there's no note on a person, if they haven't been placed, let's reach out to them. Duplicate records, if they're coming in, that's the last thing you want because then you're doubling up on data. Capturing missing data obviously speaks for itself, and data governance is another point where, you know, we want to make sure that the correct credentials are in place and et cetera, et cetera. Next slide, please, Bill.
So with that is actually where I'm going to step in and I'm going to show you some things about ways to do the maintaining your database and make sure your data health is good. So with that, I'm actually going to switch to automation and then go through some stuff. So let's get to it.
Sorry, guys, I've got to switch over to Bill there. Bill is now going to run the demo and take over, so he'll show you some of the more interesting stuff, and I'll be a bit quieter. Go for it, Bill.
All right. So with that, as we can all see in my screen, one of the first ones we want to talk about in terms of this is definitely about duplicates, because nothing's worse than having your database clog up with duplicate records. And so we're going to go through how automation can help you keep this clean. Now, with that, there is actually a function in automation where our developers have included hard-coded lists for duplicates in each and every automation instance. So with that, what you want to go is to go search lists, type in duplicate, and then here you can see you've got duplicate candidates, duplicate contacts, duplicate leads. So these lists are in all of your automation instances. While it does say one time, please don't be alarmed. It is always updating. The reason for that is if you actually try to click into the criteria, you can't see it. That's because these have hard codes underneath them that's done by our developer team. So please don't be alarmed that you see one time. It is always updating. So with that, then what you can do, and here's an automation that I would use, is that you can go to add status to duplicates. So what this is that you can get one of those lists, such as the duplicate candidates, for my example, and then you can use automation to update the status or add a note to the record. And with that, then you can set it to the status that you want to add in the system settings saying it's duplicate. Or if you don't want to do that with the settings of the status, you can actually add a note. Then once you're in that, you can go to the ATS and merge the records. Now, one of the more recent updates with that is previously you would have to manually resync automation. However, a recent change our team has done is this actually will happen automatically post a merge in the ATS. And then that resync takes roughly about 2 hours to make sure it's done. And then it'll all be resynced and settled. So with that, then how I've done it is that I've decided I'll go candidate status, send a notification to the candidate owner saying this has been marked as a potentially duplicate record. I've used it, so I used it based on email address because automation mainly looks at emails. And what that allows you to do is that if you're in the list view, what you would do in the ATS is go to the advanced search in the candidate list. And then type in status duplicate and then filter by the email. And while you're filtering by the email, then it'll mean that all the potential duplicates will show up next to each other. And you can pick which one you want to make sure you keep, which one to be secondary. While you can't merge an automation, that's mainly because it's not a guarantee in making sure the data that you see in ad automation is going to pick the right one. So that's why it's best to do merges in the ATS. All right. And so next one we're going to touch on is using advanced search to look for errors. So those of you that don't know, the advanced search is something that you can do via the contacts where you go here and go to advanced search. And this creates kind of similar to how you would when you're creating lists. So with that in place, what you can do, one that I'm always fond of is making sure that people have email addresses. So you go candidates, email, and you can see all these different options. So has email, does not have email, contains, does not contain. So obviously if they don't have an email address, that's a problem. So you'd want that list. Another option is what you can do is has email and then add the condition with email, does not contain, and the @ symbol, because obviously if you have anyone that has an email address that doesn't have the @ symbol, then it means that that's not a valid email, of course, because you need that to work. And so anything that you try to send to these people will have a problem getting any emails. They won't get any emails. I'll correct myself there, sorry. Another option, what you can do is something called score. Now, what score is what Herefish does a score, as you can see on the backing there. What you might not know is that if a candidate record has a score of 1, what that means is that their email is hard bounced. And so with that being the case, it means that you won't be able to email them because there's been either a system error, an issue with the email address itself, issue with the record, or potentially an email with the client's email server. So it's definitely something worth looking at, having a check on, and making sure that the reason is something that either you can check on and get it adjusted, or figuring out the reason why. And what you could also do is after you've done that, then to try and maintain this a little bit better, if there's ones that you wouldn't really want to keep in your database because they'd just be filling up space, what you can do is narrow it down through this and then add another condition saying that you add them. So let's go, for example, let's go score less than 2, right? So that means that all of these would have the score of 1, which means they've hit that issue with the hard bounce. Now from here, what you can do is look at things, look at the reasons why. One thing I also want to point out is with the advanced search criteria list, they have this, it looks grayed out, but please note that's just how it looks, unfortunately, and we are getting that looked at. But you can actually save this as a list and create this list from doing the advanced search. Change it to one time it was updated, type in the name and save. So what that means is that through using this advanced search, you can constantly tinker and change what you're after. A lot easier than lists, because the lists, it wants you to save it before you go back to it and to and from. So with that, this is a much better way to kind of tinker with the lists. And then with that, you can also obviously do all the wonderful stuff is in list, not in list, things like that. So what you could do with something like this is has activity bounce. So you'd expect that to be all of them, or potentially what you could look at is any that have a score of 2, which means they've hit the bounce, but they've also applied for a job, right? So what that would suggest to me is, oh, there must have been an error with their email, or error with their database, or the email error with their email server. And so I'd want to figure out what happened here before I archive any of these, because it's always worth double checking if it's not something silly as a typo. Like I've come across examples where people thought they put a full stop in, but they've actually put a comma for an email address. Always a fun one. So here is a really great tool where you can kind of tinker with what you want the list to be and how you can adjust things. And you can constantly change it with the search. And then say you've done this, oh, there's no one that matches this criteria. Okay, let me go back and change what I'm looking at. And it's a lot quicker and easier than when you're doing it all from lists, because obviously with lists, you have to save, go back in, go back out, go back in, go back out, save it every time. Whereas this, you don't have to do that, and you wouldn't clog up your system with lots of different lists and changes and things like that. All right. So with that, we'll move on to the third point that we're covering, which is post-placement tips. So with this, I'm going to change it slightly. So obviously we've said post-placement tips, but the true thing with anything with placements is you'd ideally also be wanting to touch base with a candidate before a placement ends. So mainly I'm talking about ones that are temp, contract, things like that, where the end date's always shifting. So here's an automation where I've kind of set it up where you've got to wait 1 week before the end date. So this is a date-based automation. How you can do that, I'll show you after I kind of go through this. So you do wait 1 week before end date, send a notification notifying the recruiter of all the information that this is finishing in some days. That'll give them the chance to contact the contact. That doesn't exactly sound great, but contact the person at the company who's working with the recruiter, and then also reach out to the candidate, get the little bit of a feel for what's happening, how they're going. Then after that, you've got the automation set on the end date. 1 day after the end date, I have it set to send an engagement saying, here's the your placement has finished. Would you mind filling in the survey, which I'll show you in a moment. Then I have it set that the night time after that, I have it set to the placement status to update from place to complete. That way that you know that it's completed in your system, and you can do a lot more of your reporting on placements, making sure that you're closing them off, making sure the ones that are placed that need to get extended, and keeping it a little bit more accurate. Now, one trick that I will mention with date-based automations is that it is always best not to add an end step. And the reason for that is, as a lot of you, I'm sure, hopefully know, that with temporary placements, the end date can change all of a sudden abruptly. And so with not having an end step, that allows them to re-enter it a lot more easily. Okay, so I'll quickly show you guys the steps for a placement date. So you go add new automation, blank, placement based, center on date field. And then you can see all these ones there, such as start date, end date, fixed date, all that fun things. Type in the name and you're good to start going. Now I'll show you what engagement I set up for this. And obviously, please, everyone does their own things and has their own processes, so this won't be the same. So what I've done is, first question I've got as a part of that survey is, please let me know your experience with the company. Please rate the experience. The next one is something I think is really cool, which is update your resume after the placement's ended. So I don't know about everyone, but when I was doing a lot of different temp work, I'd actually be upskilling myself, doing short courses and adding to my skills, looking for whatever my next role would be. And so with that, giving them the opportunity and the reminder to update their resume and then sending it to you means that your database is more accurate with the up-to-date information for the candidate, as well as gives you a clearer picture of what kind of role they're looking for next, how that's all going, and how they're moving. Then the next one I've got is, are you looking for a new role? And then from there, you can actually add a branch out saying yes, no. We do always there is always the default branch just in case something doesn't quite work out, like they fill in the first parts of the survey and then they don't fill out this question. That's what the default branch is for, because otherwise it can cause an automation to stall. And so if they go yes, then what it would do would take it to these questions. Please let us know what type of work you're looking for. And I've got the employment preference, so the employment type. Then date available, what date would you be available for the next role? Is there specific industries? Again, something like this where you can update what industry they're looking for in the industry field on the candidate record. That way you've got that really up-to-date information that at that time, so that way you can get them settled into a new role in what they're looking for, that where they might be a best match as quickly as possible. Then from there, another thing is, how likely are you to refer someone to the recruitment company? So for this, it's BH Asia Pac Demo, which is, as you can see, the automation instance. Then below it's, would you like to refer someone? And then I've got that set up to a branch is yes, no, default branch. So that way, if they want to refer someone, that'll be included in the survey. And then the recruiters will know, yep, oh, they have someone in mind that might be good for us to follow up with. I'll reach out to them and talk to them about that, and then finishes it off. And so with that, also recommend send notification after each survey is complete. Send notification to record owner. And with that, then every time that a survey is complete, an owner of the candidate record will get a notification, and potentially also if they've decided, yes, I have a friend who's looking for a role, they'll want to get in touch and fill in their details as well to help out a mate, because as we all know, friends like to help each other. All right, and the last thing that we're going to cover is automation tips to help keep your data up to date. And there's a really cool new feature that's kind of only just came up with automation when you're looking at this. And what this is the has changed. So say, for example, status, candidate status. What we have the option is has changed, right? Now, this is a new thing. Has changed works is that if a field has changed its value within the past 24 hours, then it would follow through into this and it would show that, yes, it has changed. And then what you could be doing is sending a notification based on, say, a status has changed to active, so on and so forth, or say someone's changed phone numbers, email addresses, potentially street address, so that they could be looking for work in a new region. And you could set that up as an automation to notify yourself. So with that, kind of covers the main points of the webinar I was going to show you. So I might send it back to Ross now, just to go through a little bit more.
How are we doing, guys? Bill, if you can pull up the slides again, please, my friend. Obviously we've had a bit of a session there, but there are some questions that we would like to answer. If anybody has any, feel free to put them in. Oh, sorry, I do have one here. So to confirm all database triggered automations, Bill, this is maybe one for you. So to confirm all date-based triggered automations, i.e. start date, end date, do not add the end automation at the very end.
Yeah, so that's correct. And the reason for that is obviously date bases can change a lot more than certain other automations. And with the not having the end automation step with a date one, it allows for candidate records to re-enter automations they might need to a lot more easily.
Nice. There is another one here for you too. how do you access Bullhorn launch?
Yeah, so obviously with Bullhorn launch is a new thing Bullhorn have done. It's quite a useful thing. It's something that I myself have actually used a fair bit just to keep myself refreshed and up to date. So what you can do is when you've got Bullhorn ATS, you can quickly go help, similar to how the community used to be. Or what you can do is look for the launch URL, which most has been shared out, and then add in your email, and then it may ask you to set a password, and then you'll be able to log in that way.
Guys, if that did not answer your question, please fire a secondary notification to let us know. But I do have one more, which maybe I'll take. So I'm getting low responses on the surveys that I send out. Are there any tips? Look, to be honest with you guys, like every industry is different, right? So it really depends on what you're saying in the emails. What I would say is, I'm referring back to right at the very start of the call when I said, I had 40,000 candidates. You can't reach out to all these people by phone, right? So the next best thing that we have is we try and contact them by email. And if they're not responding for whatever reason, well, then maybe they're not looking for a job. So the secondary thing we can do off the back of that is then archive them from the searches that our consultants are doing, because you don't want to have a search as a consultant and have 10,000 people turn up and there be 9,000 people that aren't looking for a job, basically. So that's what I would say to that. Any tips? I mean, it's difficult for us to say because, like I said, every industry is different, but I would say that like that's probably the biggest thing that people say to us. They say, well, people aren't responding. Well, if they're not responding, they're probably not looking for a job in the
I would say with that, sorry to interject, Ross. I would say
Okay.
with that, look at why they're not responding potentially as well. So in one of my demonstrations, and I'm sorry that I kind of covered a lot of things very quickly, I kind of showed you about the score and whether or not they
Yeah.
have job activity. So like, for example, if you're trying to get in touch with someone specifically and you find they've made that typo with their email address, or say, for example, they've um, changed their email address, but it hasn't updated, or there's other reasons why they might be on that hard bounce, anything like that, it's always worth checking some of the information to check, okay, is it that they're just not responding, or is there something in the process that I need to fix up? And using like that advanced search and quick changes, just to do a quick search on them, might be something that could help fix up that margin.
A very good point, Bill. Listen, there's like 30 seconds or a minute left. So if anyone does have any questions, then please fire them through. If we can answer them, we will. But if not, then we'll take them offline and we'll answer them separately. But I think rather than sitting here and being awkward, maybe that's the end of the webinar, guys. Thanks for everybody's time. And like I said, please do send questions through. We're happy to answer them and help. And enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, everyone.